The latest statistics on COVID-19 paint a grim picture of what Kenyans could expect in the coming few months. But there is hope as the patient number 1 and patient number 3 have fully recovered. The President Uhuru Kenyatta has, however, promised that the government could employ more stern measures to curb the spread of the virus if Kenyans continue with indiscipline. Good evening. It is the first day of April 2020. My name is Mnene, our sign language interpreter. At the bottom end of your screen for this bulletin tonight is Joyce Warimu. This is Primetime News. But first, let's have a look at the headlines. Welcome to the program once more. The number of the confirmed coronavirus patients in the country has ballooned up to 81 after 22 new cases were reported by Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe. During the media briefing, Kagwe hinted that the task force has enough financial muscles. However, the health materials remains a huge challenge in combating the deadly virus, which has also claimed 43,000 people globally so far. Our reporter Jeff Harambee begins this bulletin tonight.
It's not rosy in the country as the deadly coronavirus pandemic continues to hit so hard.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press.
On Wednesday, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe, with a frowned face accompanied by the Health Director Peter Moth, moved the nation in their media address.
There are a lot of skeptics, so who even today doubt whether it is here. I would like to state very, very clearly that the disease is spreading widely in our society.
In a gut-wrenching statement, Mutahi Kagwe confirmed a massive number of the coronavirus patients, which now stands at 81 since the virus hit Kenya 3 weeks ago.
Over the last 24 hours, we have tested over 300 Kenyans. Out of those, 22 have been tested as positive. 21 out of the 22 cases are people who are currently in quarantine.
Among the 18 patients, Mombasa County tops the list with 18 cases, Kiambu County with 2, Kakamega, Kilifi, Machakos, Murang'a, and Nairobi and Nyamira counties both recorded 1 case each. CS Kagwe urged the Kenyans to adhere to the stringent measures imposed by the government, but he clarified that food trucks are allowed to move as they are the vehicles ferrying food across the country.
There are 18 Kenyans, 2 Pakistanis, and 2 people from Cameroon. Is that we cannot emphasize enough what is likely to be ahead of us unless and until we adhere to the rules that we have established. Distancing, washing hands, and observing strictly what the government is saying. This disease knows no boundaries, not national boundaries, not political boundaries, not between rich and poor. We are all affected in the same way. Ni lazima tujikinge ndio tusifike hapo. Hapo pahali ambapo kila siku tunasikia watu 800, watu 900, watu 700 wamekufa. Jameni, washa tufuate maagizo ya serikali, tusije tukafika hapo.
The government, however, allayed fears that it has run out of the finances and had opted to slash the budget of the other sectors in the fight against the virus. Kagwe's statement comes after President Uhuru Kenyatta chaired the first meeting of the board that was created to marshal the funds for combating the coronavirus disease.
We have had sufficient support from the international community. The government itself has put in its own money. The World Bank, tomorrow they are approving a line of credit of another $50 million. So it is not that we have ran out of money for this purpose. The problem globally is shortage of materials, not really money.
Earlier on, it was alleged that a budget of about 11 billion Kenyan shillings meant for the Building Bridges initiative BBA rallies has been slashed and diverted to the health kitting to combat the virus, which turned out to be a false day prank. The government has also pleaded with the Kenya Power and the water companies against disconnecting the electricity and water respectively over the unpaid bills.
When it comes to a crisis, there is no budget that cannot be reallocated. I'm just saying it has not happened, as far as I know.
So far, the world has recorded about 889,000 coronavirus cases, with more than 44,000 deaths reported. The number of the coronavirus patients in the country continues to skyrocket each and every day, even as the government continues to source each and every avenue to combat the deadly virus. Until now, there is no proven medication over the virus, which has overkilled more than 30,000 people across the globe. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Harambee.
Let's stay on that now. Kenya will from tomorrow manufacture the personal protective gears. In the Daily Brief, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says the ministry is completing some paperwork before the process begins. This, even as the Eldoret-based Rivertex East Africa has rolled out mass production of face masks to boost the fight against coronavirus in the country.
The shortage of personal protective equipment is not only experienced in the country, but in many countries around the globe. To combat this, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says the country is in a position to produce face masks that will help curb the countrywide shortage.
We now have capacity of making approved masks in the country, face masks. I know that the Kitui women's, what is it called? Kikotech in yesterday, I know that Kikotech was approved to make face masks in the country, but we shall continue to make as many as we can in the country, but also add whatever we can from the country. We are also getting donations from elsewhere around the world.
Rivertex East Africa in Eldoret has since Monday started manufacturing masks, with the managing director saying they are able to produce 8,400 face masks in a day. The need for sufficient PPEs comes from a huge cry by the health workers, particularly nurses, saying that they are at risk of contracting the virus. Some of the nurses in various counties, including Vihiga and Meru, downed their tools due to lack of protective gears and training, to which the CS said they have already issued gears.
We will not expose our medical workers. And at the moment, anybody facing any patient, any suspect, anybody going to do any tracing is in medical gear.
Earlier today, President Uhuru Kenyatta urged the team created to marshal funds to combat COVID-19 in the country to raise resources that will support the government to mitigate COVID-19.
We are members of one team. We are working together. We want to collaborate together. We want to bring the whole country on board. We want to ensure that those of our society that are most vulnerable are cushioned. And we're not going to do that working separately. We need each other.
Kenya has a total of 81 confirmed cases, with the first case confirmed to have recovered after numerous tests. Winnie Lubembe for Ebru TV.
The Council of Governors now wants the national government to help in the COVID-19 pandemic preparedness. Governors want more ICU beds, ventilators and sanitizers, among other amenities, to be distributed in all the 47 counties.
The Council of Governors statement is meant to outline ways that will help in combating COVID-19 if it gets worse in the counties.
It is the fear engulfing many parts of the world, and Kenyans are in great fear of a lockdown. And according to the COG Chair Wycliffe Oparanya, this may cause fear and hunger among a larger population of Kenyans.
We make this appeal to you, cognizant of the fact that millions of Kenyans risk death by starvation should they stay at home without food. We therefore call upon the national government to make arrangements and put in place an economic stimulus intervention for small and micro enterprises to cushion them against the economic impact of the coronavirus.
Fewer ICU beds are scaring most governors in the country, who are not sure of how to defeat the disease if it spreads to the counties.
What we have done so far 1 ICU beds and ventilators. Currently, only 24 counties have functional ICU facilities. 14 counties of these having benefited under the MES project. The total number of ICU beds in all the counties is only 162. 22 counties do not have ICU facilities.
Additional health workers and doctors are needed in the counties as a way of combating the possible outbreak of COVID-19 in the counties. COG Chair highlighted that the process has already begun.
On human resource, to address the gaps in human resource, we had the meeting with the national government, and the national government has agreed to support additional staff to counties, 6,656 health workers in different cadres for COVID-19 emergency only.
COG wants testing kits and testing centers be installed in all counties to ease the time taken in the unveiling of the results to the hospitals that are spread all over the country.
Only 2 labs at the national level, at Kemri, for example, at Kemri and National Influenza Laboratory are able to test for the virus currently. This is in itself a great risk for the country should the disease spread rapidly in many counties.
Vehicles transporting food will be benefiting from the already well-thought sales in order to reduce harassment and delays to ease distribution of food to the various parts of the country.
The COVID-19 all over the world is causing panic, and here in Kenya, the Council of Governors want to work closer with the national government to ensure that all the health facilities are well equipped to fight the pandemic. Reporting for Ebro TV, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
Now, the Landlords and Tenants Association of Kenya, LATAC, has called for a 3-month rent waiver amid coronavirus or the COVID-19 menace. According to the association, landlords have been urged to offer tenants the waiver for the months of April, May and June, citing disruption of the economy. Busara Naman now tells us more.
The Landlords and Tenants Association has asked landlords in the country to give tenants a 3-month rent waiver as a way to cope with the economic tough times caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. And in order to achieve the 3-month waiver, LATAC says there's need for the government to play a role aimed at assisting landlords that are servicing loans from commercial banks.
Tungependa Rais aje apatie relief at least landlords wapatiwe package ya kuwasaidia. Kuna wale landlords ambao wana ile rent ndio pesa ya kupatia chakula. Kwa hivyo tunasema landlords wote wapatiwe package na serikali.
Also, they want the government to direct banks to give a 6-month moratorium to landlords servicing loans.
Tenants wapatiwe muda wa miezi 3 wasilipe rent.
Even as we're talking right now, there are certain landlords who are already throwing tenants outside. Please, landlord, it is not called for now. If you have humanity, be human a little bit.
Following the increasing number of COVID-19 cases, which now stand at 81, the association has called upon the government to impose a total lockdown except for the essential service providers.
If the measures are not bearing fruit, and the cases and numbers of those who are getting affected are increasing day by day, we are requesting, if possible, for the president to impose total lockdown for purposes of saving more lives.
Speaking during a press briefing on Wednesday, the association acknowledged that the COVID-19 pandemic has slowed businesses and disrupted the economy, leading to tougher times. They proposed that President Uhuru Kenyatta should reduce the prices of unga and cooking oil by 50%, with an additional 10 billion shillings allocated to cater for the elderly, orphans, those living with disabilities and those in informal settlements. They have also urged the government not to close markets in the country and instead issue preventive measures to tame the spread of the contagious coronavirus disease. In terms of transport, the public transport industry is losing up to 840 million daily owing to the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. The government directives on social distancing and workers operating from home, as well as the dusk to dawn curfew, have led to the transport sector to suffer a major blow.
Let us not pay the parking fee for now. Let them reduce on the insurance premiums so that as an industry tusije tukapandisha bei kwa wananchi ambao tayari hawana pesa.
The curfew has not only disrupted the transport sector, but also businesses, more so the Juakali sectors. Production has reduced, and now traders are not able to make adequate sales per day to cater for their daily needs. Busana Naman for Ebru TV.
Now, the government has ordered employers to release their staff by 4 p.m. in line with the recently imposed dusk to dawn curfew. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i says non-critical and non-essential staffers are supposed to leave their workplace 3 hours to the movement restriction hour. Matiang'i's Gazette notice comes a little less than a week after the curfew was effected to help in curbing coronavirus transmission. Now, vegetable and fruit farmers in Naivasha are staring at closure of their farms following the coronavirus pandemic that has seen cargo flights to various EU countries suspended. Already 50% of the workers have been sent home, with fears that the numbers could rise in the coming days as the pandemic continues to affect more countries.
The coronavirus pandemic continues to hit businesses hard. Exports have dropped by 50%, while flight charges have tripled in the last 1 month due to a shortage of cargo planes. According to Edward Mureu, the proprietor of Naivasha-based Ruby branch, the country is staring at hunger and major job losses in the coming months. Mureu notes that Kenya Airways and British Airways had cancelled their flight to the EU, leading to a crisis in exporting their products. Speaking during a tour of his farm, Mureu knows that already he had been forced to send some 50% of his workforce, meaning a drop in their production.
Kufunga kwa madege kwenda Ulaya iko na hasara kubwa sana. Kwa sababu tulikuwa tunategemea ndege za British Airways na Kenya Airways wamefunga.
The farmer who deals with French beans, broccoli, baby corn, among other produce, called on the government to zero-rate farm inputs and lower the cost of electricity tariffs.
Kazi kwa shamba imepungua. Kwa sababu kama tulikuwa tunatoa kama ni tani 10 kwa siku, imepungua karibu nusu.
One of the workers, Fanis Nasimiu, says that the disease had raised fear and anxiety among the workers who had no other source of livelihood.
Tukisikia kwa radio, kwa TV kwamba watu wanaendelea kukufa, tunakuwa na hofu kubwa sana. Tuko na hofu kwa sababu wanaweza tusimamisha kazi.
Tulikuwa tunasafiri tukiwa 260, sasa tunakuja 30. Tunapewa break kwa magroups. Mna break nusu kwa wiki moja, wengine wanarudi kazi hivyo ili kila mtu apate riziki yake ya kila siku.
Speaking earlier, the CEO for Agricultural Employers Association, Wesley Siele, noted that the drop in the exports had been contributed by the limited movement of consumers in Europe. Siele said that supermarkets mainly in the UK, Sweden and Russia were still ordering fresh produce from the country, though getting cargo flights was the main challenge. Busara Naman for Ebru TV.
You're watching Ebru Primetime News. Time now for a very short break, but don't go away. We'll be back with more news that made headlines today. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. President Uhuru Kenyatta has apologized on behalf of the police service for the excessive force meted on Kenyans as police effect the dusk to dawn curfew. In a televised live interview from State House, the president has also met with the first Kenyan COVID-19 patients who have now recovered. The president has congratulated the two for coming out immediately and seeking treatment.
So from London is when...
Ivy Brenda, the first coronavirus patient, has a reason to smile.
Kenya, because so many people of country especially.
Seated alongside her is Brian Orindi, who had come into contact with her. The two have now recovered from the deadly COVID-19 that has killed thousands worldwide. President Uhuru Kenyatta held a live video chat with the 2 recovered patients, maintaining that the disease is manageable and treatable.
But once again, to appeal to all Kenyans, we can overcome. Let us not be scared to say if we are not well. We may, as circumstances unfold, be forced to take even more measures.
Brenda suspected that she contracted the disease in London before coming into the country.
May have contracted the virus in London or on the plane back to Nairobi. So after landing in the country, I had a cough 3 days into landing in the country.
In Kenya, so far 1 person has died from the disease as the cases continue to soar in the country.
I decided to watch the response of my body for 1 day, and then the next day, that is when I presented myself to Mbagathi Hospital.
The results came back as positive. The government again embarked on treating me for the past 2 weeks or so.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has also apologized for the excessive force used by police officers at the start of the nationwide curfew that began last week. This follows a public outcry of a police brutality as Kenyans urged Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai to rein in on his officers and ensure that they do not violate basic human rights. The 2 will continue to be under the care of the government for the next few days as they are set to meet with Uhuru at State House. Abdez Hashimi, Brew TV.
Now, there could be a ticking time bomb in Machakos County as transport players continue risking the lives of their passengers. Police in Machakos were forced to impound matatus and motorcycles that were operating in Machakos roads without putting into consideration the government order to reduce the number of passengers to avoid crowding. In a crackdown led by Machakos Police Commander Karanja Mwiruri along the Machakos-Kangundo Highway, several boda motorcycles were impounded for operating despite a ban that was imposed by the Machakos County Governor, Dr. Alfred Mutua.
Kama vile mnavyoona, tumeanza mikakati ya hakuna mtu ajui ile kitu inaendelea, ni mambo ya corona COVID-19, na wananchi wameambiwa na wasikii. Bodaboda wameambiwa wadadify orders. Matatu wanabeba kama hasa hii matatu iko hapa, imebeba over 70 passengers. Wananchi wanaambiwa usiingie, keep distance ya 50 meters. Hawasikii. So naye kama polisi tumejiandaa. So tunapatia nafasi waondoke waende kwa manyumba zao. Na wakifikiri polisi hawako, tunaingia mpaka mashinani, tumejipanga. Saa hii tuko na timamu pale kwa station. Tunangoja masaa ifike ile ya saa 1 mpaka saa 11 asubuhi. So hii ingine usikoze, usikae uone vile polisi wanafanya kazi.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has postponed by-elections in Kilifi, Kisumu, Taita Taveta and Kiambu counties. Now, this comes after the country continues to combat COVID-19 that has so far risen to 81 cases in the country. The mini-poll from Sambweni has also been postponed. This came as the former area MP Salim Doris succumbed to cancer. Humanitarians in Nakuru are calling for more partners in the effort to stem the spread of the novel coronavirus disease that is COVID-19 in orphanages and homes for the elderly across the country. Have a look.
The compassionate members of the society say the institutions that are usually overstretched are undercapacitated to confront the virus on their own.
For now, I have 17 children who are within the institution. So it has been a big challenge because we have to go out as much as we are training them to keep distance and cleaning their hands every day.
A Nakuru-based humanitarian, Dr. Grace Kibuku, says deliberate partnerships during the pandemic will enable the institution to access enough soap, sanitizers, detergents, water and food as public health practitioners lay emphasis on regular hand washing, proper household hygiene and safe distancing as basic measures to control the contagion.
Those parents don't take this as an ordinary holiday that children are home for Christmas. Let our children be in the house. Let them be protected. Let them be guarded and also guard our neighbors, be our neighbors' keeper.
She further notes that partnerships with health practitioners are significant in imparting knowledge to children and the elderly in their homes as a way of enabling them to become alert against possible infection of the dreaded viral disease. She was speaking today at Jacaranda Children's Home in Nakuru East constituency, where she led a team of well-wishers and medical practitioners in donating sanitizers, soap, face masks, and food stuff to 90 orphans at the institution. She also urged more well-wishers in the corporate sphere to channel resources to the COVID-19 response kitty as a way of helping the country to combat the scourge. Joseph Muya, another humanitarian based in Nakuru, also appealed for the continued support of society's most vulnerable during the containment period to help them cooperate as partners in the prevention of the infection and spread of the disease that has since affected 81 people in the country and killed one person in the last 3 weeks. Usara Naman for Ebru TV.
Now, members of parliament from the National Assembly are expected to hold a special sitting on Wednesday next week to discuss weighty matters in relation to coronavirus pandemic. Now, Speaker of the House, Justin Muturi, has ordered MPs to reconvene following a request by the Majority Leader in the Assembly, Aden Duale, to legislate among other matters of cushioning Kenyans from economic crisis. Our reporter Jeff Harambee tells us more.
Just a day after the Senate held its special sitting to discuss measures meant to combat the deadly coronavirus pandemic, members of the National Assembly have thrown their weight behind the move by organizing their own sitting. Following a request by the Majority Leader in the Assembly, Aden Duale, to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, the members of the Parliament will hold a special sitting on Wednesday, April 8th, 2020, from 10 a.m.
Either the leader of the majority party or the leader of the minority party to write to either Speaker requesting for a special sitting or a recall of the House or any of the houses to debate or deliberate on a specific stated business.
Top on the agenda of the discussion will include a laying of various instruments relating to the COVID-19 pandemic, which comprises the public finance management involving COVID-19 emergency response fund regulations of 2020. The members of the Parliament will also consider at all stages of the Tax Laws Amendment Bill of 2020, which contains part of the legislative measures to address the taxation regime occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. The other matters on the floor of the House will involve legislation of any measures to caution the country from the effects of the COVID-19. Already a majority of the Kenyans are crying of the hard economic times occasioned by a dusk to dawn curfew.
But it is my expectation, as we sat with my brother, we also said we hope that the National Treasury will be coming up with a mechanism of where those resources are going to be channeled to. Remember, if it is a fund, it is the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury who has constitutional mandate and also under the PFM Act to set up a fund. The COVID-19 pandemic is one that is of great moment in the country and indeed in the whole world.
The plans for a special sitting by the National Assembly come after the Senate deliberated several matters during their Tuesday special sitting.
Wanted to approach that cabinet secretary to be more than willing for us.
The senators agreed to contribute 200 million Kenyan shillings towards the fight against the coronavirus pandemic in Kenya. A statement from the Speaker, Kenneth Lusaka, said a number of the measures have been taken by the various levels of the government and various state officers.
Arising from the pandemic, the Senate resolves to 1. Laud the national government for the measures it has so far put in place in combating the spread of the virus. B. Commend and appreciate all healthcare workers in the country for their selfless effort, commitment to service, care and compassion towards towards persons who have been infected or affected by the virus.
The Speaker requested the Parliamentary Service Commission to take the necessary administrative measures to yield the stated sum from the budget of the Senate to the National Treasury.
Note that the plenary and committee sittings are being held after consultation.
So far, Kenya has reported 59 cases of the novel coronavirus, 1 death and 1 recovery. The Senate announcement comes on the backdrop of President Uhuru Kenyatta's directive for the Treasury to establish the COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund. Reporting for Ebro TV, I'm Jeff Harambee.
A correction there on that report by our very own Jeff Harambee. It is 81 and not 59. Now moving on to other matters. Peter Ndegwa is on Wednesday, or rather took over the Chief Executive Officer at Safaricom today to succeed Bob Collymore, who died of cancer on July 1st last year, a move that will make him the first Kenyan to run the giant telco. He will be taking over from founding CEO Michael Joseph, who has been holding the position in an acting capacity ever since.
The 51-year-old incoming CEO takes the reins at a time when businesses have been hit hard by the coronavirus global pandemic, meaning that he might have to work from home on his first day. But he was upbeat and up to the task ahead of him, seeing both challenges and opportunities that the pandemic presents. In both the medium and long term, Ndegwa will have to define his strategy for the company's offerings, such as M-Pesa, which has emerged as Safaricom's profit and sales driver in recent years in the face of sluggish growth in voice revenues. In the short term, the company is likely to take a hit from the government directive to waive transaction costs on mobile money transfers under 1,000 shillings as part of broad efforts to promote cashless payments to curb the spread of coronavirus. Reduced economic activity following restrictions like night curfew and shutdown of bars, nightclubs and restaurants is also expected to hit cashless transactions as well as airtime purchases. On data, Mr. Ndegwa will be seeking to deepen Safaricom's interest in healthcare, agriculture and education by providing internet-based solutions. For Ebro News, I'm Musa Amir.
Well, the Kenya Revenue Authority has announced that it will charge a 3% penalty on individuals and companies in Nairobi that delay paying their dues. This follows after KRA was appointed as the principal agent for overall revenue collection for all Nairobi County revenue on March 13 this year for a period of 24 months.
According to the taxman, all the Nairobi County residents will be required to pay all their due rates before the deadline or pay an additional fee. Pay your land rents and single business permits by March 31st, 2020 to avoid attracting an additional penalty of 3% per month, read the statement by the taxman. With that deadline passing yesterday, it remains unclear how the revenue collector plans on moving forward amid the coronavirus outbreak in Kenya. KRA urged Nairobi County residents who have not cleared their land rates, parking fees, single business permits, building plan approvals, billboards, rental houses and stalls, market fees, health certificates and all mandatory county dues to do so before the deadline. The taxman also advised that those with dues should make the payments electronically or at a specific branch after collection of payment invoices from City Hall. Individuals seeking new applications or renewal of single business permits were advised to do so online on the county web portal. The revenue collection was among the key functions that the Nairobi County gave to the national government after embattled Governor Sonko handed over power. Nairobi County was transformed to Nairobi Metropolitan Services, where Major General Mohammed Abdallah Badi was appointed the Director General of the NMS, and Enosh Momanyi was appointed his deputy. Following the appointments, Governor Sonko was left with fewer functions to handle, with experts saying the move paralyzed his impeachment motion. For Ebro News, I'm Musa Amir.
Now, an impeachment motion against Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru has formally been tabled at the County Assembly today. Montira member of County Assembly, Kenywa Wangui, tabled the motion accusing Governor Waiguru of gross violation of the Constitution, abuse of office and gross misconduct. Governor Waiguru yesterday evening accused the MCAs of dwelling on petty issues instead of focusing on the war against the coronavirus pandemic. A section of Kirinyaga MCAs is said to be planning to impeach Waiguru after she failed to address the assembly. The MCA highlighted a company identified as Joamis Investment Limited, saying a tender was awarded to the firm by the governor without following the due process. Well, at 38 minutes past the hour, time now for a very short break. We'll be back with more. Welcome back. Now, with schools closed during the coronavirus pandemic, parents around the world are now trying to figure out the new normal of having to homeschool their children and work at the same time. VOA's Elizabeth Lee shows us the challenges and how parents are playing multiple roles and trying to make it work.
Pandemic first closed schools, students rejoiced. Pretty Nathan's two daughters, who are 6 and 11 years old, were also excited.
I think initially it was a lot of fun because we got to pretend like this was just a 2-day, interesting new thing to do.
But as the days dragged on,
then it started getting old. We don't really know when this is going to end. So I think that's what makes it a little challenging right now.
While working from home, she also tries to keep her children learning.
For the little one, the 6-year-old, it's a combination of, what the school wants and what mom and dad want. And there's a lot of bribing that happens in between. It's hard, I think, to juggle all these different hats that you have to wear when you're at home with them all the time.
There has been pretty intense, continuous anxiety. And even in times of calm, it's kind of there floating under the surface.
Robin Leffert, a pediatric nurse, has an 8-year-old daughter. Getting into a routine in this new pandemic normal has not been easy.
Now that we are homeschooling, I am working until I leave for work, and then I go to work. And then I come home and then we start all over again. So there isn't really any time off at all or any downtime. We are still trying to figure it out. We're still trying to come up with a schedule. I feel like every time we try to come up with one, it just doesn't work and we don't know how to make it work. So my daughter's teacher has started doing a Zoom morning check-in with any kids who can participate. So there's been a fair amount of just kind of free time for her to hang out with the chickens in the backyard and watch the construction going on next door and read her books and hang out.
Then there are the never-ending emails from school.
Every time I would look at my inbox, there would be 10 new messages from the teacher, from the principal, from the school district, from other parents at the school. I shut off. Was just too much.
In the midst of all the stress,
I am very aware now of the things that I am grateful for. And I am grateful that I have a job that is perhaps more secure now than it ever was before. I'm also grateful that my child seems to be pretty resilient so far.
I think having that extra family time, just cherish that, as a family. We're having all of our meals together as a family. There's a lot of bonding going on there.
Many parents are trying to focus on the positives and not to overstress about schoolwork. Something often easier said than done. Elizabeth Lee, VOA News.
Well, time now to cross over to the world of sports. Pape Diop, former president of French football club Olympique de Marseille, has died after contracting the deadly coronavirus. Diop was hospitalized in Senegal after contracting the virus. He has become the country's first COVID-19 fatality. The French club, in a statement released on their Twitter account, says Pape, 68, who was 68 years old, dedicated his whole life in service of football. Diop had been a journalist and football agent with Marcel Desailly, Basile Boli, William Gallas, Samir Nasri and Didier Drogba before becoming the first black president for Marseille in 2005. Harambee starlets forward Mona Halima Adam plans to undergo trials at Swedish side Djurgårdens once the sporting activities resume worldwide. Thika Queens chairman Frederick Chege says the goal poacher was expected to leave the country on March 10th, but the coronavirus pandemic distorted the plans. Chege says the move will be subject to a return to normalcy in sporting circles despite several player documentation challenges experienced in February. Mona Halima's deal with the Stockholm side will make her the 6th Kenyan woman player to land pro status should her deal go through. Well, that's all we had for you on this first day of April 2020. Thank you so much for watching Ebru Primetime News. And that is on behalf of everyone who made this a success. You can always talk to us. 40920 is our SMS line. At Ebru TV Kenya is our Twitter handle. Tell us what you think about this bulletin as well as our general programming. My name is Mnene, our sign language interpreter for this bulletin. At the bottom end of your screen is Joyce Warimu. Keep safe.